An 80-year-old grandmother was jailed overnight in Clare County because she had a very, very small amount of pot at her home, but her medical marijuana card had expired. Fox 17's Dana Chiklis joins us in the studio with details, and the family's pushed Dana to end the stigma surrounding marijuana.
Right, Doug, we spoke with Dolores Saltzman and her son Mark, who say cannabis saved Dolores's life. It worked up an appetite for her when she was sick, helped her heal after multiple surgeries, and today she says it eases her pain from ongoing health conditions. So you can imagine how disturbed they are today after a deputy took this 80-year-old woman to jail for the first time in her life.
After I smoke, I go down to a 1.
Pain-wise?
What pain-wise? Before I smoke, I would say I'm an 8 right now.
This November, Dolores Saltzman turns 81. She lives with arthritis, diverticulitis, muscle and bone aches. But she says cannabis keeps her moving and making art.
And this is the little paper I work with. It's called quilling. And it saved my life because I had a bad bleed.
But the medicine the doctor put you on, the opioids and all of that, what did that do to you?
Sick to my stomach.
June 13th, around 9 at night, Clare County Deputy Ashley Gruno knocked on Dolores's door, according to court records, to return Dolores's great-granddaughter's phone. That's when the deputy smelled marijuana.
She came in and kind of frustrated. You remember how you were telling me that your anxiety went up off the roof?
Way up.
And she asked whose it was, correct?
Right, and I told her it was me.
You can see the deputy seized several pipes, 4 joints, and 1 purple jar with an undisclosed amount of cannabis. How much marijuana did she take?
About that much.
Dolores says the deputy searched her bedroom, took pictures, even helped her clean up.
I got everything done but the 1 pan. And I says, are you ready, hon? Because she just standing there leaning after she put the bread and ketchup away, just leaning there. I said, are you ready, hon? Let's go.
Then Dolores was handcuffed in the patrol car, says she wasn't read her rights, and escorted to jail for the night.
That's ridiculous what they do to people. They don't need to make you that cold. The old Arthur was screaming at me.
She won't know who Arthur is.
Arthritis.
Dolores hopes sharing her story will help others.
That's what I want people to do. Don't be ashamed of it. Something that's going to help you feel better.
Her son Mark says this deputy made a mistake.
I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous to put her through this like that. They could have given her a ticket and to show us your card later.
Fox 17 reached out to the Clare County prosecutor and sheriff about how this case was handled. Clare County prosecutor Michelle Ambrositis tells Fox 17 in part her office charged Dolores with misdemeanor marijuana possession because Dolores wasn't a medical marijuana card holder, though they encouraged her to renew her card. Then August 2nd, a judge signed this order dismissing Dolores's case. Sheriff John Wilson wrote Fox 17 what the person was doing was illegal. Had she renewed her medical marijuana card, she would have been fine. He says he agrees with the prosecutor in allowing Dolores to renew her card, then dismissing the case. Dolores's...
Before we finish this video, I just want to stop right there and just be the first one to say, are you fucking kidding? Look at these guys. Look at these guys. Here's your sheriff. Look at him. Who's this prosecutor again? Are you kidding? What is wrong with you people? Oh, she was breaking the law. We got to be tough on crime and punish, law and order. We got to do that law and order thing. She was breaking the law by using her medicine. Do you realize what you're saying? If someone's fucking prescription for Vicodin's lapsed, but they had it in their cupboard for extra 6 months, and then they decided one day they had a bad pain and they wanted to take it, are they breaking the law? I guess you would say they're breaking the law too. Why do you care about whether or not someone's medical marijuana card is slightly expired? So that's how hardcore they enforce the medical marijuana law in Michigan, in case y'all didn't know. Michigan is not a blue state. Michigan is not a hippie state. Michigan is not some kind of liberal bastion. It's a fucking red state. And these people are red people. These people are the kind of people that are into fascism. Like, are you kidding me? You couldn't have just gave the lady a little bit of a warning, like, hey, just go get your card renewed, maybe we'll check back on you in a week or two. Maybe we won't. I mean, after all, you're 80 years old and this is medical marijuana. This is her medicine. And you're going to take her to some cold jail and book her in? Oh my God. What kind of heartless people are you, man? I have no words for this story, man. I have no words for this shit. But let's continue.
Renew her card, then dismissing the case. Dolores's renewed medical marijuana card is on its way, but she urges voters to legalize marijuana in November and end the stigma.
I hoping that we all learn a lesson from this and we make amends and people will get out and vote for it. We're the ones that have to stand up. We are the people. And we just got to fight for our rights.
So clearly a big vote coming up in November to legalize recreational marijuana, which is what Dolores was just talking about. And I did ask specifically the Clare County Sheriff, why do you feel it was appropriate for your deputy to not only ticket this grandmother, but to jail her overnight? He's yet to respond to that part of my inquiry. But again, part of the reason that Dolores and her son Mark wanted to share this story is because they just, again, want to express how it's changed her life medically. And also their disgust in feeling the jailing wasn't necessary. Ticket, fix it, ticket, okay. But to really jail an 80-year-old person overnight for this, that's up for
The cops always say the same thing, just like the cop in Georgia with the Brill family, just like the cop whenever. I mean, this happens so frequently. There was just another case in Georgia where apparently somebody from California, the gentleman had, I don't know how true this story is or what it's about, but apparently he had some kind of high potency oil on his hand. And he touched his 6-month-old kid, and the kid got, a contact buzz, which ended up a hospital visit and THC positive test, jail, and charges. And I mean, this is just happening all the time because of weed. There's never been an overdose. There's never been anybody die. Sure, sometimes kids accidentally get dosed with marijuana. That happens quite frequently. It's always been a thing. Nobody's ever freaked out too bad about it. The kids never die. The kids never have permanent damage. Everybody's usually gets in trouble for it or whether they do or not. It depends on where you're at, I guess. And it depends on whether or not you can afford a lawyer in some cases. But the cops will always tell you the same thing, people are breaking the law. So obviously we got to change the laws.
With enough health problems as it is, but now kind of thrust into the spotlight on this debate. So it looks like they're willing to take it on.
Yeah.
So what they're saying, they're talking about the November election. I'm pretty sure everybody that watches this channel by now knows that Michigan has recreational marijuana called Regulate Like Alcohol on the ballot. So we're going to try to regulate marijuana like alcohol. All right. Now, a lot of people have looked at this and called it some kind of a new corporate takeover. And I've kind of had a differing opinion on that, although I don't think that it's impossible to say that there could be some large corporate interests that get major play in the recreational market in Michigan between now and 3 to 4 years from now. Also, though, there's another opposition to the ballot proposal, and that's by the people that basically feel the way that we all feel, that marijuana should not be baby stepped into prohibition ending. We don't feel that legalization should be some kind of green rush monopolization with a bunch of heavy enforcement and people still getting locked up for marijuana on a regular basis. But the problem with this argument right now is that's cool. And I'm talking specifically about abrogate prohibition. You know who I'm talking about. I mean, we're not enemies. I mean, we're not, I'm completely with the abrogate philosophy, every word of it, when you look at the ballot proposal. But and I've always had the same position since 2014, as soon as abrogate comes into the conversation, there's those that are in the campaign that say that anything to do with legalization is just a big scam by the government, and it's for tax money, and it's to regulate everybody else out of the business, which I don't know what that even means, because basically all the people that did what they did before, or who are caregivers, or maybe people that just grow underground with no license or whatever, I mean, I don't have a problem with any of that. The thing is there's really, what he's saying is that there's going to be no place for those people in a future where, the regulators are going to be out there enforcing their rules and people are still going to be going to jail. That's true, but they're not going to be going to jail that bad, or they're going to be, I don't even know if they're even going to go to jail. Depending on, I mean, I'm sure if someone's running like a 300 plant operation and they're not supposed to be, they might be going to jail. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's different ways to go to jail for things besides just the fact that it's weed. Like if you were running some kind of business where you were making 50 to 100,000 extra dollars a year off the books, you would go to jail if they caught you. So it's just a matter of, there's a whole lot of, problems with saying we shouldn't vote for this regulate like alcohol package, because then they got us, they're going to monopolize it and we're going to go to jail or whatever, people that were in the thing before. I mean, we already see that with the MMFLA. The MMFLA is threatening to do a hard close in a few weeks here. What that means is if you don't have a license and you're not in some kind of contention to get a license, you're done. And I don't know what that means. Does that mean that they're going to start shutting it down with the state police and people are going to be going to jail? Who knows? We'll see. I mean, this is about to be a lot of shit going down. But to say that we shouldn't vote to legalize marijuana in Michigan because it's not tomatoes right now is absurd, in my opinion. But I don't want to get too far into the details of why I do or don't support the regulate like alcohol. On its face, I don't really care either way, to be honest. It's not going to affect me at all. I mean, there's a slight chance I might want to get involved in something if it's not going to be completely out of reach. But we've seen Laura regulate the medical marijuana, and they invite all these lobbyists in to help write the rules. Next thing you know, it's not friendly to small business at all. And that's why a lot of these people aren't going to be able to continue with their medical marijuana business. Especially the dispensaries is what I'm specifically talking about. So, I don't know. I'm just babbling on here, but if you are definitely like, I'm sure I'm going to get some heat for saying all that shit about, why we should vote for this. But if nothing else, think of this lady here. Just think of her when you go to vote. They wouldn't have been able to arrest her for a freaking eighth of weed, whether she had a medical marijuana card or not. In fact, she could have her harvest of 8 plants and no problem, been still not going to jail that day. I mean, if you look at what you can get away with under the proposed regulations, man, most people don't do that shit. Most people don't grow more than 12 plants. Most people don't grow any plants. The people that do grow, I haven't heard too many growers complain too loudly about, the MMF or the regulate like alcohol. There's people that want to get involved in marijuana corporate type business, big operation type shit. There's people like that in Michigan that have been talking about doing it and wanting to do it for a long time. And I don't have a problem with that. The corporate takeover I have a problem with is the one where, people we don't know anything about that didn't ever have anything to do with marijuana all of a sudden come up, set up shop, hire a bunch of people that used to be the pioneers of all this shit that helped all these laws get changed. Now they want to hire those people for like $10 an hour to do all your, genius work for you. And that's the corporate takeover that I'm not too down with. So overall, I think of the arrests. When it comes to me going into November and voting yes or no on regulate marijuana like alcohol, I have to look at everything that's involved. And if you don't think I have already done that, look at all the videos I've made about the damn thing. I've made a lot of videos about that thing. And I'm not always going through there talking about happy-go-lucky shit. I've interviewed somebody from the campaign 2 times. So I know what's in the fucking bill. I've read every inch of it many times. I've asked specific questions about specific things in there. I don't know if the answer was really legitimate, because who knows, we've seen what the regulators and the cops want to do with shit in Michigan and how bad it can go. There's a lot of factors that can weigh in on that. But one thing's for sure is that the arrests are going to go away. The arrests that we're experiencing in Michigan every year, and we're talking about the thousands upon thousands of arrests of people like this lady here for possession or for just having a little bit more weed than they're supposed to have under their normal medical marijuana conditioning regimen or whatever you want to call it. It's just better than what we got now, man. And when you're talking about abrogation of prohibition, that can still be done. Because guess what? Legalizing marijuana doesn't abrogate prohibition. It doesn't amend prohibition to be some permanent thing. It just legalizes a few things and says that a few people can get away with doing some shit. That's it. There's still heavy prohibition on anything outside of the light that's shined on with the legalization. For example, if you're growing more than 12 plants, who knows what'll happen? The guy from the campaign told me they'll just take the extra plants and be on their way with whatever little fine or arbitrary slap on the hand that they give you. That's not anything like a felony. I don't know how true that is. I'm not an expert in these things. But one thing, I'm pretty sure that that's one of those things down the line might be a rule that gets hammered out by Laura. So if that's the case, then I'm not too happy about it, because I know what they're going to do. They're going to continue to criminalize people for doing things a little bit outside of the lines. As you've seen with this lady, that's what happens in Michigan. A little bit outside the lines is pretty much where they fuck you. We've been seeing it time and time again in the medical marijuana situation since 2008. All the court precedences go the wrong way most of the time too. There's been a couple of wins here and there, but for the most part, it seems like some of the more major ones just go in the complete wrong direction. Like, are you kidding? Like, oh shit, that's going to really fuck us. For example, I just did a video not too long ago about a court decision where they were like, yeah, I guess the weed on your drying rack can be held against you in the court of law. They can weigh that up, and believe me, when weed first goes on the drying rack, it weighs upwards of like 3 to 7 times more than it does when it's dried and cured. That's just how it works, man. It's like you can dry weed out pretty good and still have like 10% water weight in it, and it can still be smokable, really. But it takes days on a drying rack for it to get there. So unbelievable. Kind of happy how this turned out, but I'm really sad how it went down, man. Sorry about having to spend even one day in jail for your medicine, because that's just unheard of, man. This is just the most ridiculous story. It's fucking ridiculous, and we need to end the arrests.